Welcome back to the Drawing Landscape Projects. In this tutorial we're going to cover how to create, well, I'm going to show you further along how I've covered here, but how to draw trees, how to work with water and elements, and how to deal with the final silhouette. So you can see here I have everything on this layer here, for the most part, except for the tree layer, which is up here. I'm going to turn that off temporarily. We're going to focus on the water first. So I have this photo reference for water here. And the main thing I want to point out is the flow, the direction, and also how do you represent it in ink, which is kind of strange. So in ink, what we do is basically you would have to show it as in, if it's, especially if it's straight up black and white like this, as in streaks, basically. So as I draw here, you can see that the motion of the water here is all kind of going off this cliff here. So I'm going off the edge, and there's a little bit of foam. You can see the foam over here in the photo. That is what's going on, like right here. So I'm going to draw some more foam here. Basically, you just kind of have a loopy kind of form here, and then have the streaks kind of have the streaks lead to the area that you're gonna the water's coming from. Now you can have the streaks kind of flow over the rocks. So like right here, I'm gonna have them sort of fly over like that and overlap. So I'm just gonna have some darker lines come across there and some thinner lines. But basically that's what I'm gonna do with the water. You can see here how especially right in here, this little area, I'll circle it and undo, but maybe I'll just zoom in here so you can see it. This area right here where the water really flows over the rock, and it's circle it right there and just undo that. You can see it's kind of hidden the rock, and that's important. That takes a little bit of planning if you're working on traditional ink. Obviously, working digitally like I am right now for this demo, I can come back in here and kind of race back. So that's one of the nice things about working digitally. But if I was going to do this on paper, I would just plan it that way, through the drawing process. Basically draw, some open areas. Keep the rocks not completely covered would be the way to go about it. And then I could draw over it. Or have some parts kind of going through. You can see here, this rock here, if I draw big here, this one I'm focusing on, has some part of the rock edge here that is being submerged in the water, but it's barely visible. The details are not there. Most of the details are in the exposed area here, with little nooks and crannies and so forth. So yeah, so that's basically how you can deal with water. Now in the distance, if I had water, like I do, I have the water flowing here. I'm going to have some thinner lines right through here, kind of leading this path, and just have the direction kind of lead back. And then the distance, there's going to be like it's calmer water, so I'm going to have little lines kind of breaking across here. But most of the foam area that'll be where the interaction will happen is right about here, where essentially the water crests and collides into the lake sort of area here. Now, if I want to break up the space more, one key thing about breaking up space is just basically drawing in land elements that keep going back in a zigzag kind of pattern is really nice. I could have a piece of land there. I could have another piece kind of going across here, and zigzag back, and all of a sudden this water goes back further and further and further. It can go all the way back to here, for example. Maybe this is essentially the horizon of the water line here. Now, in terms of dealing with trees, let's move over to that. Let's zoom out a little bit here so you can see the whole thing. So here's a tree element, and here's the photo I was working with. I'll click on this layer to kind of draw on. And the thing about trees, you want to add the detail of the bark. So if we zoom in just a little bit here, there's lots of these little lines kind of crisscrossing, depending on the type of tree you're drawing from. But the thing I really want to talk about is most people get the idea of the tree trunk, but you want to kind of draw essentially thick to, usually trunks get thinner as they go out. So if I was going to draw another tree here, it would get thinner and thinner and thinner, for example. I'll undo all that. The other thing you'll want to add with the tree trunk is the visible detail, of the branches that come through. So if this is a branch kind of coming across here, uh, and this one is pretty dark, so I can come in here and kind of add these little lines along here. But the breakup of the leaves is critical, and you have to generate a shape that kind of represents the leaf without examining every single leaf. Because if you do that, you kind of want to gesture out the form or the shape of all the pattern of the leaves, but you don't want to sit there and try and replicate every single leaf. That will just take forever, and it'll be kind of pointless, to be honest. In larger patches, especially if it's darker, you could just fill in, like blotch your patterns of dark like this. So this is one way to kind of represent some, leaves, is to find a stroke that kind of works, and then draw this sort of shape of the leaves. It's kind of nice to kind of break it up. So basically doing this. You guys spend a lot of time working with trees, though. It is a little bit more work to get it to go, get it to come together. Add some branch lines in here, and then some kind of going up, some going out like that. Leaving some open areas is great. And then where the tree connects, it's very critical to show, root systems, vegetation. You can see all these little lines here that I'm kind of adding more details in here. But basically, it's just lots of really keen observation on that. And finally, the thing that you're going to want to do with your overall drawing is add some really nice silhouettes. Besides the regular detail, like I added a lot of detail in this rock here. It still could have, more little nooks and crannies and things. And even, this one was fairly much in shadow, so I could add a lot more sort of cross hatching in here. But ultimately is to draw some silhouettes of rocks. So, basically having something in the foreground to frame it. I could have another tree to kind of frame this. There's all kinds of things I could do to kind of bring us a separation between the environments here. So one way to do it digitally, if I want to add another, I'll just add another layer here. If I want to do this with a lasso tool is really cool for drawing kind of any kind of organic shapes. But if I want to draw another rock in the foreground here, I just release that and then drop in the paint bucket, and boom, I've got another rock there. And since it's on its own layer, I can move it around. This is truly what's really nice about working digitally versus traditional, is that you can do this kind of thing and kind of be like, well, maybe the rock only needs to come out a little bit, like something like that. More it's more of a shadow. Anyways, I look forward to seeing your ultimate landscapes. This one's got a lot further to go. I'll keep working on it and maybe show you at the end here. But yeah, until next time, see you soon for the Realistic Landscape Project. Cheers. Bye.